Gurave Gaurachandra Radhikaya Tradaya Krishna Krishna Bhaktaya Tarakaya Namaha. I first of all offer millions of Dandara pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev. Nitya Bhavishya Om Astav Bhavata Shishi Machi Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami. And the same again unto our most beloved Nitya Bhavishya Om Astav Bhavata Shishi Machi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And all the exalted Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, headed by the TridandiM sannyasis, sitting on the dais, and all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, Dandara pranams. So today we're celebrating the Tirubha Mahotsava, the disappearance day of Srila Gaura Das Babaji. We've heard many glorifications of great Vaishnavas recently. We've heard the beautiful glorification of Srila Vamana Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Trivipra Maharaj, etc. And all of these exalted Vaishnavas, again, they fill our hearts with new and newer enthusiasm. We see the variety or the variegatedness in each of these particular Vaishnavas. What was their particular essence? What was their gift to the world? And in this particular case, today, Srila Gaura Das Babaji, it's a very marked individual difference, a contrast between so many of our other Goshtiyanandi preachers in this parampara. We see the difference between the Goshtiyanandi and the Bhajananandi. So, coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, most of the personalities were very much delivering the message very vocally. And we certainly see after Srila Gaura Das Babaji, we see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati doing this in a very magnificent way. But each personality has his own speciality. And this speciality, if it's fully under the direction of Guru, then it is completely bona fide and totally correct. We see in the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how he instructed Nityananda Prabhu to go to Bengal and preach. He instructed Ramananda Rai to stay in Puridam. He instructed Haridas Thakur to stay at that Siddhavakula tree and just chant with his time and his life. So each personality, if they were given this direct instruction by Guru, so this is our guideline. Not that we should imitate any particular personality, but we should hear, what does my Gurudev want me to do? What is his Manovishta? So today in the glorification of Srila Gaura Das Babaji, we've heard so many different pastimes, so many different truths. Many centered on his unique renunciation. Namo Gaura Kisharaya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye, this Vairagya that he embodied. But how can we today take inspiration from this Vairagya? We've heard from Pujapad Srila Maharaj this morning the 4 different types of Vairagya. Marketa Vairagya, Samsrita Vairagya, Falgu Vairagya, and Yukta Vairagya. This Yukta Vairagya is the path that we can fully embrace and appreciate. Yukta Vairagya means we're utilizing all of our resources, our wealth, whatever talents, etc. we have been gifted with in this birth for the glorification of Radha and Krishna. We cannot renounce, in fact, anything from this world. There's an example of, say, a bank teller, a clerk working in a bank. If he suddenly throws his hands up in the air and says, I renounce all the money in the bank, how ludicrous is that? Nothing belongs to him. So similarly, what can we claim to be our own in this world that we can renounce? We can't renounce anything. but we can utilize the gifts that we have been bestowed in the glorification of Radha and Krishna. So we see that in the case of Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, his vairagya, his renunciation was extreme, as we heard Pujapad Vaikanas Maharaj explaining. Sometimes Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji would be sitting with some followers and they would say, oh, today is a special appearance day or disappearance day. Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji would say, right, let's have a festival, let's celebrate. But then they would say, but oh, Babaji, we have no prasadam, we have no resource, we have nothing to celebrate with. Then Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj would say, yes, we will fast. And we will take Naam. We will chant more and we will fast. This will be our celebration. So in this mood, he was very much cutting against this tenacious hold we have on trying to satisfy our material senses. He saw throughout, even the so-called Babajis, many practicing people who are practicing their bhajan, he could see that actually they were still holding to some idea of enjoying their senses. Even one time, one of his followers came to him and said, oh, Babaji Maharaj, one Pandit, he's speaking, one Goswami is speaking very beautifully on Brahmara Geet, and all are weeping, all are hearing this beautiful guitar. And then Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, he was silent for a moment, and then he looked up and said, actually, you should not go to listen to him. And then he began to explain what is the qualification of the listener to hear those high guitars. Even one devotee was commenting, oh, sometimes they're crying, they're weeping in that assembly. And again, Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj saying, oh, this is simply a display. This is simply Maya. So this is a very interesting point, because our Srila Gurudev, our beloved Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, has described and given us such high Rasik topics to relish. And how can we reconcile the caution that Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj is actually saying to his followers? He was cautioning them that if you haven't renounced, if you haven't left material sense gratification, if you haven't just come to the bank of the Ganga, if you haven't left your family, your wife, etc., then ultimately you're not qualified to hear these topics. Or in other words, if you haven't left sense gratification, if you haven't decided the insignificance of sense gratification, how can you genuinely fill your heart with these topics? Yet, we hear, in contrast to this, how Srila Gurudev explains. He quotes from the very last verse in the Rasa Panchadira, Vikriti tam prajaveduti itam cha Vishnu, Shradantitu nushrim yad artha varanyanya, Bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya karma, Kridroga asa abhinoti akcharena tira. So this is Shukadev Goswami's own words, that first we hear these sweet topics of Radha and Krishna's meetings, of Radha and Krishna with the Krishna with the gopis, etc. We hear these topics, and then when we have become attracted and attached to the sweetness of this Harikatha, then Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Labhya, then Bhakti can actually come in the heart. So this is a very important lesson, because sometimes when we're hearing the teachings of Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, it may be somewhat intimidating to us to hear these Rasik guitars. Also, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he has set many restrictions and so on about hearing such elevated high topics. Even just now, we were hearing Srila Gurudev himself speak. Don't try and jump to the top of the tree. Go to the root first. That we should not throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. We should understand what is bhakti initially, what is bhakti ras. Bhakti is that attraction to Radha and Krishna, that attraction to rendering them service in love and affection. So this is the path of bhakti. Bhakti ras is entering into those rasic topics into those topics in TridandiM that we've been hearing about constantly for the last practically a whole month, these divine topics. But we must go deeper to hold on to these topics. We must understand what is the sadhana bhajan that will be effective to produce the bhav bhakti, that will lead to prema bhakti. We must know this sequence. So in glorifying Srila Gopkishore Das Babaji, we must appreciate his complete lack and interest in sense gratification. This is very hard. The jiva by nature, we are enjoyers by nature. If we're not enjoying the sweetness of Harikatha, the sweetness of Brajadam, how can we actually have this attachment and attraction to Radha and Krishna? So somehow we must purify these material senses. Now in the life of Srila Gopkishore Das Babaji, he was exemplifying this on every instant. Sometimes he would say to the senses, oh, senses, you want to enjoy here, have some mud. And they would feed some mud just from the bank of the Jamuna. Sometimes he would just give himself neem leaves. Oh, you want to enjoy? So enjoy these neem leaves. He was so strict like this. So now, how can we personally take this example into our own lives? Somehow or other, we must develop gradually a purification of our material senses by our attraction to the sweetness and beauty of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. This is the process. Shradanvitu Nushranyat Artha Varanyanya. That by hearing these topics first from the Rasi Vaishnavas under guidance, Shradanvito, with great faith, under guidance of the Rasic devotees, then for sure some taste, some higher taste will come in the heart, and we will develop this attraction for Sri Radha and Krishna. This is the process. You cannot just falsely try and give up the lower tendencies. The lower tendencies are automatically replaced by the higher taste. Paramkrisva Nivartante. This is what Bhagavad Gita is also saying. So Gurudev has stressed very much that we must hear these topics, and at the same time, we must be developing some genuine detachment from this world by appreciating the sweetness of these kathas that we've been hearing recently. So on this very powerful day, Srila Gurudev has said many times, we must come to the school of Srila Gopkishore Das Babaji. This is our school, the school of Vairagya. But it is yukta Vairagya. It is utilizing all of our propensities and talents in our activities to please Sri Guru. Gurudev was also saying just now in this movie we were watching before the program today, how we must know the Manobhishta. What is Gurudev's desire? We should understand personally. It's not going to be the same for everyone. I remember personally in my own life, Gurudev told me perhaps 15, 16 times, just do bhajan in this life. Bhajan also means teaching, preaching activities. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used to say that preaching is the belching of our bhajan. So it's not that one thing should be minimized for the sake of another, but in principle, unless we are chanting, unless we are cultivating our sadhana bhajan, then we can hope to have no sustained progress in entering into these rasic topics. So very carefully, we must follow this example of Srila Gopkishore Das Babaji. What was his sadhana? What was his bhajan? He was most strict in the way he would conduct his life, in the way he would take his naam, in the regularity of his life. So this example is very inspiring and encouraging. It's not so difficult. Ultimately to, for example, rise in the morning. It simply requires one to take rest at a reasonable time in the evening. It starts from that place. And then, but regularly performing this, regularly taking naam, a fixed number of rounds. 16 rounds is really something of a lower stage. We should all be looking towards 20, 25, 32, etc. We should be increasing that aspect of our bhajan, that aspect of our associating with naam. Then the mercy will come to attain the higher taste, the higher attraction to the service of Sri Radha and Krishna, to hear these leelas and to be able to enter into contemplation, meditation. Pujapad Chitta Maharaj has been talking much about mantra upasana, svarasika upasana, very much on this parikrama. He's been talking about this meditation on Krishna's pastimes, how to sustain this. Not that we just come for simply 1 month, but take the mercy that today is being offered by this divine personality, Srila Gaura Das Babaji. Take the gravity with which he lived in this world. Take the dedication that we saw in his example of his lifestyle. Take that, take it seriously to heart, and then it will build a platform, a strong platform for the palace of Rasa to be on that platform. So this is very important that we develop this understanding. We know how to reconcile. Pujapad Shri Maharaj spoke extensively, and so did Pujapad Ban Maharaj, on how to reconcile this apparent difference, this contrast in lifestyle between Srila Gaura Das Babaji and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. At heart, there's no contrast. They are both dedicating their every atom of their existence to service to Radha and Krishna in their own individual ways. Just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Babaji, he also was a very esoteric Babaji, performing bhajan. He would put even fish bones and offer people tea, etc., to try and chase people away. As we've heard today, how Srila Gaura Das Babaji, he would sit in a latrine, saying that the stench of excrement is sweeter than the stench of this material sense gratification. Try and understand the nature of the material senses. The material senses are temporary. They're pertaining to the material temporary body. How can we get spiritual nourishment from something that is temporary? The body is temporary. It can never produce a eternal value. But the soul, the spirit within, which must be connected through our sadhana bhajan. Our sadhana bhajan will, in time, evolve to bhav. And it will, in time, evolve to prema bhakti. So by very carefully starting on this platform, by Srila Gurudev has said many, many times, we must know enough tattva to enter into Leela. It's not that we go on and on and on, assimilating Gyan. We must move on to the Leelas, but on a strong, comfortable platform of our sadhana bhajan. So I'm taking this opportunity today to pray deeply to Srila Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj to please give me strength to be renounced from the pleasures of this world. Yehi samspasa javoga dukhe yone tevati adyantavanta kuntaya na te shuramate. That these flickering senses, this enjoying mood that the senses get, are just momentary. We want to connect with our soul, which has eternal value. And that connection will manifest very simply through the connection with Nam. If that is done regularly, day by day by day by day, during those early morning hours when everything is very quiet and peaceful, not just while we're in the Dharma and the association devotees, but when we're back in our various workspaces. I know it's very difficult. I travel in the world and I see the difficulties devotees face. They have to go to work, etc. How to involve them, how to keep some strength there. So this is my prayer today, that Srila Gaura Das Babaji, he be merciful to me and give me with the strength to purify my material senses to a point where all my longing, all my inspiration is only focused on hearing these pastimes and relishing the sweetness of the gopis' affection and attraction to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. How to stay in that world of hearing these sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So by the mercy of Srila Gaura Das Babaji, I pray that very quickly we will get a solid foundation to remain in this state of consciousness forever for the rest of this book. Srila Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai.
Now,